Two over here, maybe two there. That's all right. Hello, everybody. We good? Apologies for being late today. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, Tammy and I'm not sure where the First Lady's disappeared to, but Tammy's right there. Tammy and I just came from the funeral of Jersey City Detective Joseph Seals, who was a hero taken from his family and community 1 week ago. He was a decorated law enforcement veteran, but even more importantly, he was a husband and a dad of 5 children. And while we gathered in mourning, and it was an extraordinary service in his honor, as you can imagine, we parted with a renewed commitment to do whatever it takes to tackle the rise of hate in our communities. We will not allow what happened last Tuesday to recede into the background. We are steadfast in our commitment to keeping our communities safe for everyone who proudly calls this state home. May Detective Seals rest in peace, and may his family find comfort at this difficult time. I may also say that the weather has wreaked some havoc in the state, not as much as we had feared, but NJ Transit has had an unacceptably poor performance this morning due to a number of reasons. So we're trying to figure out exactly what's happened there. On to the topic as to why we're together today. For the past 2 years, our administration has been rewriting the script for the way economic development is undertaken in New Jersey. We are moving away from the failed ways of the past, in which political connections and closed-door deals took precedence, and to a more focused, strategic, and sustainable future. A future driven by innovation, powered by a strong and diverse talent pool, and which grows by taking full advantages of who we are. Innovation, talent, location. Those are the 3 words that guide us in so many respects. The team we are building at the Economic Development Authority, led by CEO Tim Sullivan to my right, who was with us, and Chairman Kevin Quinn, who was with us in spirit, understands that our economy must grow from the bottom up and from the middle out. They and the team here, we just had a great team meeting, have spent the past 2 years creating new programs to ignite our small business sector, grow our wind energy sector, and restore our dominance in the innovation economy, among other steps. They share my commitment to seeing a new system of tax incentives with smarter tools and protections approved by the legislature and signed into law. They know, as I and my economic team do, that our future can't rest on delivering huge payouts to the best connected among us while failing to deliver real results to so many in our communities. That way was tried, and that way failed. We have little to show for it. We ignore its lessons at our peril. It's time for a new way and for fresh perspectives. It's time to make sure economic development has broad-reaching benefits. It's time to create new tools for startups and small and medium-sized businesses that are not just right-sized for them, but are as innovative as they are. To move this vision forward, Kevin and Tim need an EDA board of directors that also shares this worldview. And today I am proud to announce my intended direct appointments to the EDA board. My goal in building this team was simple: to recreate the EDA board into one that mirrors our state in its diversity and breadth of experiences, and which recognizes that economic development isn't a one-size-fits-all process, but one in which the unique needs of each business and each community must be given full consideration. This team here today meets that high bar. Virginia, Ginny Bauer, CEO of the technology firm GTBM Inc. and former New Jersey Commerce Secretary. President and CEO of the Newark Alliance, immediately to my right, Aisha Glover. Rosemarie Hicks, two to my right, owner of the Camden-based RHC Consulting Group and owner of CoWork Street, a collaborative office space that is helping recharge the entrepreneurial spirit of Camden. And Marcia Marley, who many know is the chair of the Board of Trustees of New Jersey Policy Perspective, but who many may not know also holds a PhD in economics from the University of California at Berkeley. With Ginny, Aisha, Rosemarie, and Marcia, the EDA board will welcome 4 strong voices who know what works in today's business environment and what it will take to create a stronger and fairer New Jersey for tomorrow. They also appreciate, as do I, that this is a proud, organized labor state. And Ray Greaves is here in row 1A to attest to that fact. They know, as I do, that we need to direct real and sustainable growth into the communities where it will do the most good while protecting our ability to make critical investments through the state budget in things like education and infrastructure, 2 assets that are vital to our long-term success. There simply is no better or more advantageous place than New Jersey for the world's biggest and best technology, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, logistics, and life sciences companies. We want New Jersey to be the place where great companies look to first when deciding where to grow and expand. But even more, I want New Jersey to be the place where great companies are born. I've said it more times than I recall, being pro-growth and progressive are not either-or scenarios. They are and both. We can do both, we must do both, and we are doing both. This isn't about a future punctuated with new buildings or one in which a few connected insiders can succeed while outside a community remains stuck. This is about doing things a new way. This is about a future defined by vibrant and sustainable communities in which we all can succeed. I'm incredibly grateful to Ginny, Aisha, Rosemarie, and Marcia for answering my call to serve at this critical time. And I look forward to their partnership and leadership in helping to create the stronger and fairer New Jersey we all know we can be. So it is now my pleasure to invite Aisha Glover, President and CEO of the Newark Alliance, to say a few words. Aisha.
I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised that the governor did not mention that there are 4 women. Right? So we don't always have to call things out in order to acknowledge them, even though I'm going to call him out for not calling it out. So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is a great day.
Good afternoon, class.
It's a great day. I'm honored to be appointed. Thank you to Governor Murphy for the opportunity to serve. Kudos to you for taking on the necessary move to reshape the EDA to ensure a stronger, fairer representation both within the authority and across the state. So stronger and fairer cannot be buzzwords. They must be reflected in funding, in initiatives, in appointments, in cultures that exist within our institutions. Equitable and inclusive also cannot be buzzwords. I talk to people from across the country about equitable development, and all recognize that the city of Newark is doing something right under the leadership of Mayor Baraka, and I'm honored to be part of that. I also want to do my part to ensure, alongside with our governor, our state, and the EDA, that New Jersey can become a national model for equity. And that starts and ends with economic development. We can no longer do business as usual. We need to do business as it should be. We can collectively work together to attract or establish the next Audible. We must be intentional about who benefits. The EDA's role is critical not only for our economy, but for our legacy. It's an exciting time for our state. and I'm excited to work with the entire board, Tim, and his team. Thank you.
Thanks, Aisha. Thank you, Aisha. Got to get my spectacles on here to make sure I get the right order. Next up is Ginny Bauer. Ginny is a chief executive of a private sector company, but she was also a former Commerce Secretary, former commissioner of the Port Authority. She herself is a 9/11 widow, and she's one of our very best friends in the world. Ginny Bauer.
Thank you very much, Governor. I'm very happy to be back here in Trenton, and as the Governor mentioned, I was the former Commerce Secretary, so I had the privilege and honor of working here at EDA, hand in glove, with my very good friend Karen Francini, who I'm sure many of you know. And I also know how wonderful this agency is. I know that this is the catalyst to providing economic development, for providing the loans, the financing necessary to help our businesses grow and to stay here. I also know this governor, as he mentioned. I've known the governor and Mrs. Murphy and their family for over 20 years. No finer people in the world. No smarter person in the world that I know, and I know a lot of people. But I also know that the governor is dedicated and motivated, and this is strong on his agenda. I'm honored to have this opportunity to take this position. I recognize that he's given us confidence to do our job, and I intend to do it. So I want to thank him and wish you all a very happy holiday. Thank you.
Wow, with those comments, you're welcome to step here and speak for another 20 or 30 minutes, Jenny. Please also help me welcome Rosemarie Hicks. She is an owner, as I mentioned, of Cowork Street. She is an entrepreneur and the entrepreneur's entrepreneur in Camden. And Camden's gotten a lot of airtime over the past year. We are deeply committed to Camden. Let there be no doubt about it. I've said this so many times. There's a handful of communities. As they go, New Jersey goes. Newark is on that list. Trenton right here is on that list. Camden is on that list. But when we say as it goes means it has to work for the whole community. It has to work for everybody, not just some, whether that's in Camden, Trenton, Newark, Patterson, wherever it may be. So please help me welcome. Daniel, is that you? Okay. Okay. Rosemarie, that was quite fanfare. Please help me welcome Rosemarie Hicks. What an introduction.
Thank you. I couldn't ask for a better intro.
She has her own soundtrack.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Let me just start by saying I'm a micro business owner and entrepreneur out of the city of Camden. So I was both honored and pleased when NJEDA reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in participating and being part of the board. I believe that I represent micro business, and I'm very clear in saying micro business because that's what most small businesses are. And as a business in the city of Camden, we have an opportunity to make sure that those folks are represented. And I appreciate the fact that I've been asked to do that, to step into those shoes or to create that footprint. So I want to thank the governor for, again, the confidence that he's placed in me to be part of this board. I look forward to working with a dynamic team behind me. I think we can be impactful. I think we can be intentional. And I think that we can make a difference, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you. Well done. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for being with us and agreeing to serve. Last but certainly not least, I mentioned Marcia's academic pedigree and her association with NJ Policy Perspective. She's also the driving force in NJ Blue Wave. She's a leader in so many respects in this state. Please help me welcome Marcia Marley.
Well, I want to deeply thank the governor. It's an honor to be appointed to the board of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. My training is in economics, and my passion is progressive grassroots politics. So I have a keen interest in helping to shape a new and inclusive vision for economic development that will keep New Jersey's economy vibrant, fair, innovative, and prosperous. Values I believe that we all share. To achieve these goals, we need to use incentives wisely. Economists of all political persuasions believe that unmonitored and unlimited subsidies to individual companies are a bad use of taxpayer dollars. The devil is in the details here. Firm-specific subsidies can be a sharp and effective tool in the government's kit, but only when they are given in return for specific, contractually mandated, and carefully monitored outcomes from the companies who receive them. And this began, and targeted to areas, industry clusters, and companies that support the state's broad development strategy. Finally, the subsidy per new job created must make economic sense to ensure our tax dollars are not wasted. New Jersey's growth is going to come in part from entrepreneurs and innovators who build their businesses in the state. If we are to reach our goal of shared prosperity, it is important that we create opportunities for those who have been excluded for far too long, especially women and minorities. And isn't this a great start? Come on, this is a wonderful start. Inclusion is not only the right thing to do, but it is good economics given the right incentive policies. Study after study has shown that greater equality can lead to a stronger economy. As my daughter used to say when she was young, when asked to pick a choice, she'd say, "Why can't I have both?" Well, in this case, you can have both, all right? And that's what the governor has been saying and articulating for a long time. I'm looking forward to working with my fellow board members and the EDA staff to ensure that tax subsidy policies and all development policies include robust assessments, are based on best practices in the field, and, as outlined by the governor's plan, are targeted, innovative, and equitable. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Marcia. A couple of quick things. Was that the same daughter who was just married?
Yes.
All right, so mother of the bride here to my left as well. I also want to say amen to everything each of you said, and you are joining a really, really outstanding team led by Tim, the board by Kevin, and a lot of the members of that team are with us today. So to each and every one of you and the folks who populate this building, and for all the good work you do, particularly in challenging times as you've had, hats off to each and every one of you. We'll take a couple of questions if you got them. Michael.
Governor, how large is this board? How many appointments do you have? And are the people that you tried to get off the board still staying on the board?
So may I say this, and Matt Plackett will want to make sure I repeat this. This is my intention to nominate. I believe the effective date doesn't come until next, this weekend, the 21st. I think of December, number one. Number two, how big's the board, Tim?
15 full members.
15 members.
How many does the governor get to appoint?
5 ex officio, 5 public members.
Come on down. 5 ex officio, so members of government, and then 5 public members.
Including the chairman.
And I don't think we've asked, as of this day, I don't think we've asked anybody to step down who hasn't stepped down, to the best of my knowledge. Not to the best of my knowledge. Daniel.
So all of the board members are ones that have come in since you took governor? There aren't any ones from, say, Christie or prior governors who want board?
Governor appointees.
These 4 are all governor appointees.
So are there any?
Well, the other big one was Kevin Quinn, who's the chairman, who I also appointed, and that was some number of months ago.
There are
Yeah, there are others. The Speaker and the Senate President each get designations as well. Please.
Governor, your reaction to the legislature passing the initiative to put marijuana on the ballot yesterday? Does it feel gratifying, and what's going to be your role during the campaign to make people vote yes in November 2020?
I mean, I won't comment on the specifics of it, but it's better than nothing. And, you know, we always thought that that was the default was to get it on the ballot next year as a referendum. And again, it's better than nothing, and that's not insignificant. But I want to remind everybody, in the meantime, 600 people per week, so that'll be about over 30,000 people by the time we get to this referendum, will be arrested for low-end drug crimes, most of which are marijuana, and they will be overwhelmingly persons of color and overwhelmingly male persons of color. So that's probably 450 to 500 of those 600 people will be persons of color. Our kids are exposed. The drug traffickers run the business, set the rules. There's no social justice. So I just want to repeat, I'm happy that it's coming at long last. But in the meantime, the status quo is unacceptable. It's also why we're going to take some steps, which I'll leave for another discussion in the meantime, to try to ease the pain between now and then. Brett. Yeah, well, absolutely. I want this to happen, and it must happen. And just because it's later than I want it doesn't mean that I don't want it. Absolutely. Brett.
What did you make of yesterday's protest at the State House over the vaccination bill? And was there, after what happened with Sue Altman being dragged out, was there an effort to just saying to the protesters, we'll just let you be at all? Or?
I had nothing to do with either of those occasions. And I want to reiterate what I said about Sue, which is now a number of weeks old, completely, utterly reprehensible and unacceptable what happened to Sue, period. As it relates to yesterday, you saw enormous passion, which at least did not surprise me. Where that goes, again, I'm not going to comment on specific bills, but where that goes will be determined. But our administration will continue to make decisions based on protecting the health of our 9 million residents, especially our kids and vulnerable populations. We'll make decisions based on science and facts, and that's what we've been doing, and that's what we'll continue to do. Please.
Governor Murphy, I know you've already spoken on this, but could you expand on the whole Andrew situation?
There's not a whole lot more that I can say about it. I just would repeat what I've said, which is he picked politics over the Constitution. He picked a cuteness over courage, and I think it's pathetic is the word I've used, and I continue to think it is. This is a complete cut and run. He's let down folks who thought they put him there for one reason. He's looking at polling, and one thing is you run your life by polls in politics, you'll die by that. And he, I think, has had the audacity, as important as impeachment is, and there's great passions on both sides of it. I, for one, am completely supportive of the Speaker's approach. The methodical, transparent, one foot in front of the other approach, but I recognize there are passions all around that, but he's distilled what it is to be a Democrat to one issue. If everything else weren't bad enough, Democrats are proud of what we stand for, and it's a whole spectrum of things. It's jobs, it's respect for organized labor, it's education, it's healthcare, it's the environment, it's women's health, it's gun safety, and to think that this guy on a dime can cut and run based on a poll and based on one important issue, by the way, let there be no doubt about it, and by the way, lastly, show no courage. I think this is a time that Democrats get rewarded for being courageous and standing up on behalf of their values, including on behalf of defending the Constitution.
Thanks for expanding.
My pleasure, ma'am. I'll come back to you, Michael.
What would you do with the tax cap bill that the legislature sent you yesterday?
I don't, again, won't comment on it, but we are all in every single day to contain and reduce property taxes. We spend the good bulk of our day on economic matters. Here we are today, and that includes growing the economy, creating not just any jobs, but the right jobs, and making sure the tax burden in this state is reduced and not increased, particularly on middle-class homeowners, and particularly through property tax. So my guiding light will be to continue to do everything we can to relieve that property tax burden. I'll come back to you, Michael. Sir.
What's the status of talks with the legislature about
Listen, I don't think we're that far off, but I'm frustrated we're not there yet. We presented our new set of recommendations on October 1st, 2018, so that's almost 15 months ago. I mentioned earlier that we've had a lot of conversations with the legislature that's borne fruit. We talked about, actually didn't mention this earlier here, we mentioned it in private, things like codifying NJ Ignite, which is the program that pays in the incubator world your rent and overhead so you can put more money into R&D. That's something they already do. Great program, almost unlike any other in America. Some of those conversations with the legislators said, you know what, that's so good, let's put that in a law. We like that. Food deserts, which there's lots written about that. Camden was written a lot about, but not just Camden. That's a good piece of fruit that's been born out of those conversations. But enough, we got to get there. I want to get into a room, lock the door, figure it out, and not leave until we do. I had a good meeting at the end of the week with the Senate President and the Speaker of the Assembly. And I said again then, and there was a good reaction to it, so I hope we can do this sooner than later. Let's get into that room, let's hide the key, and get this thing done. Mike, did you have something?
Sure. On the plastic bags, paper bags, straws bill, it seems that the Senate Assembly and Governor's Office don't all agree on what to do with that. And
That would be the first time in the history of the state, first of all.
unless there is an agreement, that's not going to go forward. So do you think that's going to happen in the next 2-3 weeks?
So I don't know. Again, I'm not going to comment on the specifics. That was also a topic of discussion we had with the Speaker and the Senate President. We recognize there are a couple of moving parts. It was a good discussion. We all, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe I can. I'll speak for myself. I know we want to get something done here. The environment, particularly when you're the densest state in the nation, you can't get a B+ or a C+. And as long as there's the amount of plastic in particular out there, that's unacceptable. So we want to do something. How that resolves itself, I can't predict. Michael, maybe come end with you.
You said you want to get in a room on tax incentives and not come out until you've got an agreement. Are you willing to give way on this notion of a cap? You're for it, the legislative leaders think it's unnecessary?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of a, let them speak for themselves. I'm not speaking for them. A little bit of a different view among the leadership. We feel pretty strongly about caps. I feel less strongly about what the cap is or whether or not there's some creative way. But it's, as Tim reminds me, it's a budget item. And where else would we have open-ended commitments? I think that's been one of the hallmarks of why the last generation was such a disaster. It was just literally a fire hose of money going out with no accountability, and we don't like that. And I think we've proven with the film and TV tax credit that we may, if we get the cap wrong, we're willing to come back and revisit that. I frankly think we got the cap on the film and TV too low, and so that's something that we've worked constructively with the legislative leadership on trying to address. But we feel pretty strongly that we need some sort of cap so we can turn to taxpayers and say, we're the stewards of your money. We know at most this program will cost X or Y. And as Tim reminds me, the angel investor tax credit has a cap. The NOL program has a cap. And maybe far more importantly than not just that we have programs that have caps, if we had other states who are our competitors and they were uncapped, that would be a concern. They're all capped. Some of them are ridiculously low caps, but they're all capped. So it's not like we'd be going into a competitive situation with one arm tied behind our back. So I've given you probably more than you need to know on that. Maybe one last one here.
Can you tell us how these board members will help you achieve this stronger fair New Jersey? I understand that they are the deciding vote, right, if a tax credit is approved or denied. Can you tell us more about the role of these new board members?
I'll leave it with this question if it's okay, because it's a good way to come back and give them some homage. Look at them, listen to their resumes and their talent. These are four extraordinary individuals who come with a different set of experiences, each of which will enrich the board discussion and with the team here. This is a board that is an active board. This is not a board that sort of mails it in. This is a board that actively participates and helps move the objectives of the EDA and our broader objectives forward. And they each, I think you heard this from them, they each bring a very, not just a wealth of experience, but a very significant perspective that we need. And I could say something about each one of them, but they've said it themselves. So I think they're in their own rights, Ginny, Marcia, Rosemarie, and Aisha are individually enormous talents. And then the notion that we can bring all four of them on board, as my intention, at the same time is a game changer for this organization and for the board. I want to thank everybody at the EDA, Tim, beginning with you and your whole team for hosting us. Again, I want to salute and congratulate and thank their service, Aisha, Rosemarie, Marcia, and Ginny. I want to wish the whole team, thank you for everything you all do. Our brothers and sisters in organized labor, I want to wish everybody a fantastic holiday season and New Year. Thank you all.